Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and I climbed from rank 1 to legend rank in Go Battle League in under 320 total battles. Now it goes without saying, I've already hit legend on my account. So I ended up doing battles on my wife's account, and I was able to make it to legend pretty quickly. Our final stats were 209 wins out of 317 battles, a 66% win rate, and legend rank was secured. Her favorite Pokemon of all time is the Piplup family, so I figured I may as well run a team with Shadow Empoleon. Now this is not the best team that I used while climbing, but to me it was the most fun team. Wigglytuff on the lead, Astonished Dunsparce as the safe switch to lure out any potential Annihilate, and Waterfall Shadow Empoleon as the closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a disastrous lead in game number 1, Wigglytuff into Skarmory. I save switch into the Astonished Dunsparce, opponent is going to respond with Gastrodon. Now this is a situation where having Astonish is actually a big improvement for Dunsparce, as normally Rollout of course would be heavily resisted due to the ground subtyping on the Gastrodon, but Astonish is hitting for neutral here, so I can survive the Earth Power. This Drill Run will actually threaten a KO due to the Astonish damage, and my opponent is forced to go down a shield. I baited out the ground type, and I get a nice charm down with the Wigglytuff. They bring in Skarmory, I send in the Waterfall Shadow Empoleon, and I don't know what they had in the back because they will concede the match. We get a much better lead in the next match, Wigglytuff into Primeape, opponent save switches into Ariados, and I get to respond with the Waterfall Shadow Empoleon. Now Empoleon in previous seasons was running Steel Wing. Steel Wing of course did get a nerf, so I figured Waterfall could be interesting, especially due to the fact that Wigglytuff really hates fire types, and Waterfall would give me a ton of fast move pressure there. Opponent, if they want to, can bring back in the Primeape. Primeape is going to inflict some serious damage, but look at the Shadow Waterfalls, my goodness. In comes the Wigglytuff, they close combat instantly, but that means they're going to have to take a charm when they are heavily debuffed. In the back, it's Dugong, and this is a situation where having Astonish is much worse. The thought process behind Astonish was a pretty straightforward one. It's that these battles were done obviously after the Annihilate community day, so if Annihilate is going to be very popular, I can hopefully try and bait out an Annihilate and then punish them with super effective Astonishes. But since I'm now in a situation where I'm going up against an Ice type, the slower pacing and lack of super effective rollouts does make this matchup worse for me. I will be firing off another Rock Slide, opponent is going to commit the shield, and my Dunsparce is going to be so heavily debuffed here, so I will commit the shield. Opponent farming up quite a bit, and I need to land a Rock Slide, but this is just not going to do the damage that I want it to do. The Rock Slide does absolutely nothing. I will get another move. They try and go for a snipe, but they're unsuccessful. Wigglytuff gets the farm down, and I do have a move banked on the Dunsparce, which means this game is over. Swift is going to knock them out anyway, and we're able to take the win. Hopping into the next match, Wigglytuff into Jumpluff. So honestly, the entire team does okay here. I mean, Waterfall and Empoleon, Waterfall is of course going to be resisted, but Drill Peck will hit for super effective damage. I am going to commit the shield as I do want to try and apply a debuff with Icy Wind, and they do go for the Energy Ball first. This is honestly great. Shielding a harder hitting Energy Ball is very nice, as now I can apply the debuff with the Icy Wind, and future moves are going to be doing a lot less damage. They're firing off a move. I'm more than happy to let this through. They go for another Energy Ball, and that's just really not going to do a lot. Here, I actually decide to save the Wigglytuff in case they have an Annihilate in the back, and I make a catch onto Dunsparce. Opponent brings in Sableye, and if they're bringing a Sableye into a normal type, whatever they have in back does not want to see Dunsparce whatsoever. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be firing off the Drill Run at the Sableye. Drill Run, of course, is going to be no shield, and Sableye knows they can withstand that damage. I just click the move instantly. If they wanted to CMP time me there and deny the energy, they can, but they don't. Instead, they're just going to let it go, and it's a Azumarill in the back, and now I'm going to bring in the Waterfall Shadow Empoleon. Empoleon is going to be a complete wall to the energy from Azumarill, but Empoleon is still pretty frail in the Great League, so that will still do quite a lot of damage. I'm going to overfarm quite a bit, look to connect with a Drill Peck. Drill Peck is going to be shielded up by my opponent. I go for Drill Peck number 2. They make a catch onto the Jumpluff, but this is honestly fine. Getting rid of the Jumpluff is pretty nice for me, and now I should just be in a completely one position. My opponent is going to fire off an Ice Beam. I will commit the shield because I can get to the Drill Peck, and the Drill Peck is just going to do too much damage to this Azumarill. Azumarill now deep into the red. I can switch into the Wigglytuff, make it to the Swift. Swift is going to knock out the opponent, and even though things got a little scary in the end game, we are able to take the win. Wigglytuff versus Morpeko, a great lead, but if Morpeko gets an energy lead at any point, I don't have a resistance to electric on this team, so that could be problematic. They save switch into Azumarill. I'm going to bank a bunch of energy on the Wigglytuff, and now I'm going to bring in Dunsparce. Dunsparce, these Astonishes are adding up. I'm hoping that I can Astonish it into double Drill Run range, because ideally I want to leave myself as low as possible on the Dunsparce, so I am going to no-shield this, because I just really can't give the Morpeko farm. If Morpeko can farm something down and exit with like 2 moves, then that could be really, really bad for me. So I'm going to overfarm as much as I can, playing to the CMP tie. Drill Run is going to secure the knockout. In comes Morpeko. Morpeko is going to get a farm down, which is unfortunate. I bring in the Wigglytuff, but I have to respect it. Aura Wheel is just too powerful. They're going to form change and then look to immediately switch out. And in the back, they have Jumpluff. And this is actually going to be a very tricky game, as my Empoleon is now going to have to be sent in here. The good news is I debuffed them, which means that Energy Ball, while it is going to hit for some pretty significant damage due to how glassy Empoleon is a move that I can survive, and now I'm going to look to fire off the Drill Peck. Drill Peck is going to connect. That does do quite a lot of damage. Opponent is farming up a ton of energy. They actually let me get this move, so they're probably looking to save this energy and switch out to reset the debuff. There's the switch out, switch clock, not yet up. I send in the Wigglytuff, but I don't get the snipe. They make the electric Aura Wheel, and this is going to force my final shield. And this is bad because they banked a ton of energy on the Jumpluff. Their energy management has been very good throughout the course of this game. The Aerial Ace is going to land. They're firing off another move. It all comes down to this. Can Wigglytuff survive? Energy Ball. Wigglytuff hangs on with a sliver of HP and takes the win. Wigglytuff into Clodsire, a truly terrible lead. I'm going to save switch into Dunsparce. Opponent responds. Oh, that is not an Annihilate, that is a Primeape. If it was Annihilate, I'd feel a lot more comfortable here, but it is going to be the Primeape. I'm able to inflict a ton of damage there, and now I have a choice to make. They have enough for a bait and a nuke. I call the bait, and they went for the nuke. I should have just shielded there. I could have shielded and then gotten a farm down, and then had switch advantage, which would have been a lot better for me. But unfortunately, I try to call the bait, and now I'm probably in trouble. In the back, it's Dunsparce. Wait, this game, I still think I probably lose it, but at the very least, it's a Pokemon that has no fast move pressure into me. They do have a pretty significant pacing advantage. If I can get a catch, I think there's a chance that I might be able to win this. Dunsparce is going to play to the CMP tie. Unfortunately, even though I had the energy lead, that energy lead is basically evaporated by the fact that Dunsparce does have the superior pacing. So I am going to be committing the shield on the Drill Run, looking to farm up quite a bit of energy here. I try the catch, but I just do not get it, and that should just be game over for me. Icy Wind is going to land, but Clodsire is going to get a full farm down, and even debuffed, this is a Shadow Empoleon. I am not surviving from this health range, so the Earthquake will secure the knockout. If I could have lived and farmed down, I could have won the game, but Shadow Empoleon is very, very glassy. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Wigglytuff into Dunsparce. Dunsparce is going to be firing off its energy, and I will decide to let the first one through. Drill Run is not going to do a ton of damage, and I'm just going to go for the Icy Wind right away, and it does end up being a CMP tie. I just need to apply debuffs here, because after I apply debuffs, I can very comfortably tank Drill Run number 2, and I'm not worried about getting farmed down. So that Drill Run is going to land, looking for the Charm down with the Wigglytuff, but the Dunsparce has a 1 HP survive. You can't even see that health bar, but they are able to successfully win lead. I bring in my own Dunsparce because I don't want to reveal the Empoleon. Opponent is going to bring in a Azumarill, and this is honestly fine. I definitely don't mind seeing the Azumarill here. Their lead was Dunsparce. In the back, they have a Azumarill, so they are extremely weak to Chestnut. So I have to imagine their third is going to be something that beats Chestnut and its Talonflame. And here's where having Waterfall is very nice. If I was Steel Wing Empoleon loses the 2s to Talonflame, you just get incinerated down. But with Waterfall, I just get to absolutely destroy that poor Talonflame. And now back in comes the Azumarill, but I have all the energy from farming it down. So I just get to unleash Drill Peck after Drill Peck after Drill Peck. They're going to force my final shield, but at this point, there's just no way of getting through this Empoleon. I'm firing off the Drill Peck at the Azumarill. Azumarill is going to use the final shield, but Empoleon gets to the Drill Peck. This Drill Peck might honestly just KO here, and it does. Shadow Empoleon not messing around with the damage, and we're able to take the game. We see another Primate, but this time it's on the lead. Opponent is going to save switch into Azumarill. Last time, I banked a Swift and switched out. This time, I'm going to try playing it a little bit differently. I'm actually going to throw the Swift in the hope that the Charms plus the Swift plus quite a few Astonishes can put it into singular Drill Run range. Ideally, I want to leave this matchup with the Dunsparce as low as possible. I don't want to give a lot of farm to the Primate, but I would love to leave as low as possible, but with a Drill Run loaded. That would be absolutely massive. They're going to land that Play Rough. I get to the back-to-back Drill Runs, and I'm going to be firing off that move. Azumarill is going to let it through. In comes the Primeape, and Primeape is now going to have to take a Drill Run. Primeape can survive this, but it will do quite a bit of damage. They're actually going to switch out into Clodsire, and we have Waterfall Shadow Empoleon. Empoleon there, I tried to throw the move one before it actually triggered. I'm not entirely sure why it overtapped there into a CMP tie, but either way, it's not going to matter whatsoever because Empoleon, even if I do end up shielding 2 Baits, is just going to get a very nice 2 shield farm down. I thought for a second about just no shielding and winning the game with Wigglytuff, but I was like, you know what? I can play it safe this way, and now I can just switch into the Wigglytuff. Primate, close combat is going to do a lot of damage, but what it does not do is KO. Wigglytuff survives it, gets the charm down, and takes the win. Wigglytuff into Shadow for Alligator. This is a good lead for the Wigglytuff, and this matchup is one of the reasons why you do want to run Swift. As if you're not running Swift, then for Alligator actually gets 2 moves before you get 1. But with Swift, you are able to outpace. So the Hydro Cannon is going to connect. I make it to the Swift before they're able to get their second move. And now they have to make the first shielding decision of the match. They're going to let the Feraligatr go. They're going to bring in, oh my goodness, they bring in Clodsire. I pivot into the Dunsparce. They bring in Chestnut. Normally, this is a nightmare matchup for the Dunsparce, as Dunsparce is fully walled, but look at the Astonishes go. This matchup is actually fine. Like, you're super okay as the Dunsparce going up against Chestnut if you have Astonish. I get to fire off the Drill Run. Drill Run is going to land, and this Dunsparce has basically neutralized the entire Chestnut. Chestnut is going to fire off the last second superpower. I can bring in the Waterfall Empoleon. They aggressively switch out. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into the next match, Wigglytuff into Talonflame. This is a terrible lead. I'm going to save switch into the Astonished Dunsparce. The opponent stays to check the fast move. They bank a ton of energy and bring in Azumarill. And that's honestly a really heads-up play from the opponent. Most people, when they see the typing, will just panic and switch out. But this opponent was very perceptive. They stayed in, they checked the fast move, they realized with Astonished they weren't in any danger, they banked a move, and I'm now on the back foot. Teams like this, with a lot of teams that I do run, rely on basically what I refer to as information asymmetry. Basically, my opponent isn't aware of the spicy moveset that I'm running, and that can cause them to make misplays. Here, that Azumarill living on 1 HP is brutally unfortunate, as they're going to land a move. They have energy with the Talon. Talon gets the fire off. I mean, even a resistant Brave Bird would do so much damage. They end up baiting with the Fly. In the back is Dunsparce, and unfortunately, this game is a loss. There's just not a way that I can play out of this, as Dunsparce now has the 7 rollouts needed for double Drill Run. And unfortunately, my clock will not be available. At this point, I'm just definitely coping. I shield hoping my clock will be up, but it's still 10 seconds from being up. So Empoleon is just going to get KO'd, and there's just no way for Wigglytuff to win the game, so I'm not going to waste any more time, and I will resign the match. We're picking up a terrible lead in the next match. Wigglytuff into Ariados. The safe switch into the Astonished Dunsparce. Opponent chooses to stay in, even though Astonish is only neutral. Look at the amount of damage he was able to output onto the Ariados. Ariados is going to debuff me and bring in the Azumarill. And we're honestly not off to an amazing start here. I'm debuffed. These drill runs are going to do absolutely nothing to that Azumarill. And we frame drop so we don't get our drill run. Oh my goodness. Things going from bad to worse. I'm going to bring in the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, more than happy to absorb energy, and at this point, I just have to trust that Empoleon with 2 shields is going to be able to waterfall some stuff down. Azumarill is going to fire off the Ice Beam. I'm farming up. They're firing off another move, and I decide to shield. I want the farm down so I can exit with a ton of energy to threaten the Ariados. Opponent aggressively switches out into the Ariados, and this makes me think that they're strong to Wigglytuff in the back. Usually, you wouldn't hard pivot unless you're strong to it in the back. So in this case, I think I'm just going to stay in with the Wigglytuff. Even though I could bring in Empoleon, I'm just trusting in the fact that Wigglytuff will not be good in back, and I can win this game with Empoleon. They go for the Trailblaze. One waterfall deletes the Ariados. They still have... Oh no, they were weak in the back. They had Feraligatr. The opponent actually pivoted despite the fact that they were super weak to Wigglytuff. So them giving up switch, if I just brought in Empoleon, that game is just a win. But unfortunately, based on how they pivoted, I assumed they were strong to Wigglytuff, and that ends up costing me a potential winning game. We move to the final match, Wigglytuff into Dunsparce. Dunsparce going to farm up to the back-to-back drill runs. I'm going to no-shield the first, and then do what Wigglytuff players love to do, which is click Icy Wind. Opponent will not go for the CMP tie. They know that they lose that CMP tie, so they are just going to let that through. Dunsparce farming up a ton of energy. I'm going to let this go. I know that I can survive it. It is going to be the drill run, and I will actually get the charm down. Opponent brings in Talonflame. I end up pivoting out into the Dunsparce. Opponent sees Dunsparce. They don't check the fast move. They switch out into Azumarill, and this game is now just completely over. This game is just a win because their Talonflame is going to get completely waterfalled down by the Shadow Empoleon. One thing that I did really enjoy about this team is because I was running 2 very strange Pokemon in the back, the Astonished Dunsparce and the Waterfall Empoleon, is people couldn't ever really team read what I was running just because the Pokemon in the back are quite strange. So it ended up working out quite well. And now my opponent will be able to secure the knockout, but I have 2 shields and a Shadow Waterfall Empoleon. And look at this Talonflame just get melted. They're just going for fast moves at this point, but they realize Empoleon is much too healthy, and they will concede the match. I do want to list all of the teams that I used along the way. The first team that I used was, I believe, in the Halloween Cup. It was Ariados, Greninja, Charjabug. That team was not the best, but it was more so just to work through those early ranks when you're often facing really underpowered Pokemon. A lot of the climbing was done in the Open Great League, and that was with the Wigglytuff, Drifloon, Gastrodon team that I featured. I had a couple days when I went like 23-2, 21-4 with that team. Then, of course, in the last 100 ELO or so, I was pushing with the Empoleon team. Unfortunately, the leagues did rotate right before I was able to hit Legend with it, so the final Legend was reached in the Willpower Cup with a team of Gardevoir, Mandibuzz, and Cresselia. All in all, I had an absolute blast with this challenge. I think that maybe if I stick to more meta teams, that maybe in the future I could hit Legend in under 300 battles with even closer to a 70% win rate, but I was a little bit limited with what was already on the account. But overall, nevertheless, I am very happy with how the challenge went. And hitting Legend with a 66% win rate, I think kind of reinforces something that I've said for a while, which is that if you put in the time to work to improve your counting, work to improve your charge attack timing, and being able to identify endgame situations and find those win cons, it does get easier and easier to climb. And so I'd like to dedicate this accomplishment to the people who say that Go Battle League is rigged and you can never get higher than a 50% win rate, as we did hit Legend with 66%. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.